Before we get closer to the debate, I'd like to just give you some observations. India is the only major country in the world where participation is not 1 and 2. That's a huge challenge, I think, for all people involved in football in India. The actual participation at grassroots level, whether it's through weekend or whatever, it just needs to increase. It needs to increase through the provision of pitches and officials and volunteers. There is obviously the dominance of football is linked to the national team, but we need to link that more towards club competition. The idea of the national team rising its ranking up to 143rd is not enough justification. It's how the clubs perform. And a lot of this rests, the work rests in the hands of the clubs, not just where the national team ends up. Obviously, we've talked about the idea of hosting major international events. With every major event comes awareness and comes a certain increase in infrastructure. And this last thing I touched on earlier, we have to be prepared that Indian funds from Indian brands are going to leave India in the next 12 months, in the next 2 years, and going to go on to other footballing properties. We already have Airtel supporting Manchester United. It is likely that a major Indian brand will be a jersey sponsor in Europe. And we have to be ready to address that. And the competition is fast and fierce. But there are some green shoots. And I'm sure the panel will talk about this in a minute. They're more aware of these than I am. But Bayern Munich, in conjunction with Adidas, hosted a youth cup, the winners of which were taken to Munich. Chelsea organises a regular youth clinic here in India, around the country. They supported the Subrata Cup for underprivileged children. So Adidas have been out there doing some stuff. I think there was the advertising dollars, and Arcade talked about this yesterday, the European Championship on Neo last year generated a substantial amount of advertising. And that was advertising dollars that hadn't been placed on football before. So these green shoots are there for all to see. For Goa, specifically for Goa, what can we talk about? I think the Goa Football Association and the Development Council together need to have a stake in all areas of football. There is not one area that needs to be left alone. Everything from development and youth through to commercial and television, through professional clubs and facilities. All these areas are critical to the success, and nothing can be left to outside parties. Goa needs to get itself to a level where it can host international competitions. Anything from hosting an under-16 exhibition competition through to a FIFA World Cup for under-17s would be a way of getting the infrastructure to a level which tests the tolerance of more taxing football bodies. And finally, identifying brands that have aligned interests. As football decides to grow over the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, using the lessons that it has learned over the past 5, 10 years, it needs to work with brands that aspire to go into the same direction. There's no point trying to go to a Apple or a Samsung and asking them to support football, because they'll tell you that they're already number one. They don't believe that football can take it to the next level. But there are many other brands who have very similar needs to football, aspire with the same values and the same goals. And the football bodies and football properties need to find those. And just to get the debate going, I did a bit of research for this session, and I came up with a quote from Steve Constantine. And then I decided to find out where that quote came. And I found this report on the BBC website, and you can all go and Google it and find it. But it comes from almost 10 years ago, when India was 143rd in the world, the same as where they are today. And Steve Constantine talks about the need for development at all levels. He talks about the need for the clubs to do more with their youth. And in his last sentence, he says that of the 25 states, only 2 or 3 are doing anything in youth, which echoes what Scott was saying in his presentation yesterday. And this is from 10 years ago. So I think we need to look back and decide how much was wasted in the last 10 years, and how much more should be done in the next 10 years to take football to the new direction.
Let me get across to Agnolo Dias, who's the chairman and co-founder of Taproot. the most creative man in India, as some people would put it. Agnello, there are two sections in it. One that watch football, and one that does not necessarily watch football, Indian football per se. How do you get people to the ground? How do you make money out of it?
Well, I've been sitting in the sessions from the morning, and somehow I felt that at some points it seemed like a symposium or a seminar where we'll all go meet and collectively moan about all the problems we face. And I find it funny that somebody from AIFF can sit here and lament about the state of stadiums when the reason why they exist is so that the state of stadiums should be better. But I think what we try to do in marketing is a very simple thing, which is most of what we are trying to do here is trying to promote the game of football with people who like football. I think we should forget that, and that's what we do. Forget the people who are interested in you. They are going to come anyway. They're going to come and stand in the heat. They're going to enter loos that have women signboards marked on them. And we need to concentrate on the people who are not interested in football or seem to be not interested in football. And for that, it needs a completely different change in perspective. Because the fact is that however much you may run down BCCI or say the commercialization of cricket or film stars and stuff in it, there is no rule that told you should promote football without using them. So why are we imposing these things on us? Is it because it's a great way to hide the fact that we can't do it? There is no rule that says only AIFF treasurers and secretaries should stand next to Messi when he comes to India for a picture. If Katrina Kaif stood next to him, 32 newspapers would have carried it. And everybody would have asked, who's this guy? So we've got to look at how cricket grew exponentially in the last 10 years. It was never this big. It's a mistaken fallacy that cricket's been around for so long and it's been doing well. It wasn't this big. In the last 10 years, they had an entirely separate team that only worried not about the game and about how it's run, because that was happening anyway. They're only worried about all these people in houses, wives, mothers, children, daughters, who don't necessarily know the intricacies of the game. And so today, if you go to a house, if there's a favorite program on, it's on. If it's not on and the IPL is on, that's fine. But if there's a football match on, then they'll put something else, even if they're not interested either. And television really controls the Indian mind, whether you like it or not. The television is on all the time. It's the default family member in the house. So really, television is chewing gum for the eyes. Okay, you just watch it, you look through it. Sometimes you catch something on it, sometimes it's not. But if you can become the number one default choice, and for that to happen, we've got to look at the commercial side of it. If any of you were asked today, or majority in this room, would you watch a football match today or a cricket match, and you had a choice, I'm sure majority of you would say football, right? But if every sport was publicly listed on the stock exchange and you had to buy stocks, how many of you would buy a football stock as opposed to a cricket stock? So if you, who are part of the game, think twice about that, why should a corporate just give away his money for you because of public service or CSR? Right now, we're in danger of the whole game becoming a CSR sport. Please help. Okay, there are no ideas or no steps being thought of how do we give somebody something in return. Maybe what do we have we don't have money, fine, no problem. Okay, but Goa has a lot else to give, and there's a lot of barter that happens in media. You know that, and it's official. So why can't we get a big media partner? Why can't the government of Goa give what the state of Goa has for free? Do we have celebrities who can be made state-sponsored guests for 1 month in a year, so they come here? There's so many things that can be done without using money. But all we probably get boxed in thinking is nobody is coming and helping us. And there's a slow burn way of doing it. We can do what we are doing, and hopefully it will get better and take 15 or 20 years. But I think it's probably time to stop taking the stairs and look for the elevator. And for that, at least the Goa Federation should have, and if I can say it's a concrete step, an entirely new team that just looks at the non-footballing part of football. because there are enough people in the room with great passion who will do enough for the game for people who are already interested in football. And the only focus of that other team should be, how do we get people who are not interested in Indian football or in Goan football interested in what's going wrong? If they can see and wear T-shirts of players on EPL, why can't they do it for Indian football? So if this seminar is held again, you should get a lot of cricket lovers in the room, and then probably it will be easy to see what they are missing. It'll be easy, or you should get a lot of football lovers in the room who follow international football and don't follow Indian football. But I think there has to be equal, if not greater, emphasis on looking at people who are not right now interested in Indian football, because that will then give returns to corporates for them to put in money. And I work with enough corporates, nobody gives cricket money because they love cricket. All of them get more than enough in return. Okay, much faster and easier. But no, I have not heard of a single corporate shelling out even 10 rupees because he loves the game of cricket. There is definitely return. It's commerce. And if we don't look at it that way and we say, oh, they stand at film stars and do it, then we're going to go around in circles and say, somebody's not helping us and they should come and help us and move forward.